The story of Ruth takes place during the time of the Judges. Ruth's story is a powerful testament to faithfulness, kindness, and God's providence, ultimately leading to her role in the genealogy of King David and Jesus Christ. The story opens in Bethlehem during a time of severe famine. Elimelech, his wife Naomi, and their two sons are forced to leave their homeland in search of sustenance, setting the stage for a journey of loss and hope. The family settles in the foreign land of Moab. The arid landscape and unfamiliar customs underscore the hardship they face as they try to rebuild their lives. Shortly after their arrival, Elimelech dies. Naomi and her sons are left to fend for themselves in a strange land, marking the beginning of deep sorrow. Naomi's sons marry Moabite women, Ruth and Orpah. The new wives enter a blended household, bringing hope for continuity even amid cultural differences. The family adjusts to life in Moab. Ruth and Orpah embrace their new roles, though the cultural gap is evident as the family navigates customs and survival in a foreign land. Tragedy deepens when Naomi's first son, Mahlon, passes away. The loss shocks the household and leaves Naomi increasingly isolated. Soon after, Naomi's second son, Kilion, dies. Now a widow without any children, Naomi's grief is profound, and her future looks bleak. Hearing that the famine has eased in Israel, Naomi decides to return to Bethlehem. The decision is filled with sorrow as she contemplates leaving Moab, and the only family she has left. Naomi urges Ruth and Orpah to remain in Moab, so they might rebuild their lives among their own people. Though it is clear her heart aches at the thought of separation. With tears and reluctant goodbyes, Orpah returns to her family. In contrast, Ruth clings to Naomi, signaling a deep and steadfast loyalty that will shape her destiny. In a poignant moment, Ruth declares her loyalty. "Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God." This vow binds her fate to Naomi's. Ruth and Naomi leave Moab together. Their journey is filled with uncertainty, yet Ruth's determination and love for Naomi light the way. In Bethlehem, Naomi is greeted by a community that remembers her family's past glory, yet her bitterness over loss and the hardships of Moab linger, casting a somber tone over her homecoming. Recognizing their poverty and Naomi's despair, Ruth takes initiative. Encouraged by Naomi, she prepares to glean in the fields, setting the stage for a turning point in their lives. Ruth steps into the fields at dawn. Dressed in simple work garments, she gathers leftover grain, a humble task that speaks to her determination and hard work. In one of the fields, Ruth enters the territory of Boaz, a respected and generous landowner. His field is well tended, and his workers show a sense of order and kindness. Boaz, surveying his harvest, spots Ruth diligently gleaning. Intrigued by her work ethic and humble demeanor, he sends his overseers to learn more about her. When questioned, Ruth shares her background. She is Naomi's daughter-in-law, a foreigner who has embraced the God of Israel. Her honesty and devotion leave a positive impression. Moved by her loyalty and labor, Boaz instructs his workers to leave extra grain for Ruth, ensuring that she will have enough to sustain herself and Naomi. At the end of the day, Boaz invites Ruth to join his harvesters for a meal. This gesture of hospitality warms her heart and offers a glimpse of hope amid hardship. Naomi reflects on Boaz's actions and recalls the custom of a kinsman redeemer who could restore a family's honor. She sees in Boaz the possibility of renewal for their line. With wisdom born of sorrow and hope, Naomi outlines a plan for Ruth to secure their future by appealing to Boaz as a redeemer. The plan is both daring and steeped in ancient tradition. Ruth prepares herself for a significant and risky act. Naomi advises her on how to approach Boaz at his threshing floor, an act symbolizing humility and a request for protection. Under a starry sky, Ruth makes her way to the threshing floor where Boaz is resting. In a scene charged with symbolic meaning, she lies at his feet, an act that signals her request for his favor. Boaz, awakened by the subtle disturbance, finds Ruth at his feet. He is both startled and moved by her boldness and the humility of her request. In a hushed exchange, Ruth explains her devotion and appeals for Boaz's protection as her kinsman redeemer. Boaz listens intently, impressed by her sincerity and acknowledging the customs of their people. Though Boaz is inclined to help, he explains that another, nearer relative holds the first right of redemption. He promises Ruth that he will address the matter legally the next day, leaving her with cautious hope. At sunrise, Boaz goes to the city gate, a place where legal and community matters are settled, to speak with the nearer kinsman about redeeming Ruth and Naomi's property. In a public forum, Boaz presents the case. The nearer kinsman listens as Boaz explains the duty and honor of redeeming the family line, a custom that preserves the inheritance for the family. Despite his initial interest, the nearer kinsman, wary of complicating his own inheritance, declines to assume the full responsibility of redemption, opening the door for Boaz's intervention. With the nearer kinsman's refusal, Boaz steps forward. Before the elders in the gathered community, he formally declares his intent to redeem the land and marry Ruth, thereby restoring the legacy of Naomi's family. The assembly expresses their support for Boaz's decision. Their approval, marked by prayers and blessings, underscores the significance of this act for the entire community. Hearing the favorable outcome, Naomi's despair is replaced by renewed joy and gratitude. For the first time in years, hope for a restored future shines through her sorrow. Boaz and Ruth's marriage is celebrated with a festive gathering in Bethlehem. The community rejoices in the union that promises to restore Naomi's family and honor God's provision. The newlyweds settle into their life together. Ruth, once an outsider, is now embraced as part of the people of Israel. Their home becomes a symbol of reconciliation and divine favor. Over time, their marriage bears fruit. Ruth's steadfast loyalty and Boaz's kindness set the stage for a lasting legacy, a reminder that faithfulness and redemption can flourish even after loss. The final scene marks the birth of their son, Obed, who will become the grandfather of King David. This child symbolizes not only the renewal of Naomi's family, but also the far-reaching promise of hope and salvation that extends to all nations.